What's up? Hopefully you can hear me. I've got a camera like way up here and the screen way down here. So first of all, thanks for joining me. I've got my clipboard. Wearing stripes today. Stripes kind of do weird things to the camera. So hopefully you're not getting motion sickness or any of that. So first of all, my name is Scott Harmon and I have a website called starttherapypractice.com. Also have 2 pediatric therapy clinics. My wife and I are both occupational therapists. So super glad that you're joining me here today. Love Facebook Live. Super cool. If you have any comments, leave them in the comment area because I can see the comments this time. Last time, couldn't see the comments because I was shooting video on my phone. So Natasha's in here. What's up, Natasha? I kind of have to go like this because it's real small print. So appreciate you joining me. Just a few things we're going to cover here. I'm going to talk about giving presentations. So we're going to cover how to give a presentation, where to give a presentation, and I'm going to put some links after this is all done. I'll go back in here and put some links that are going to be super helpful for you. All right, so also I want you to put in the comment area where you're from, where you're at in private practice. I'd love to know that. I'd love to know your journey, where you're at in the journey of private practice. So put that down there in the comments. All right, even if you're watching this later, put it in the comments. Where are you at in private practice? What are you struggling with right now? I'd love to know. That'll help me do more live Facebook Lives. All right, and now behind me, I've got a whiteboard with sticky notes, and I'm going to tell you what that's all about here in a minute. It kind of goes in with our presentations. Our presentation here about presentations. All right, so before we get started, I do want to mention that I'm going to open enrollment to the Academy of Private Practice October 25th through the 30th. So if you're watching this live or even in the next couple of days, that's next week. So don't miss out. I only open it 3 times a year, January, June, September. I realize this is not September, it's October, but I'm going to go to that cadence, that sequence of open enrollment. All right, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. It's called Start a Therapy Practice. Like the Facebook page. If you're watching this, you're on my Facebook page. Go ahead and click like. You can message me on Facebook. So I'm getting into using Facebook Messenger quite a bit. So feel free to send me a message. What I really like is just a short audio message. So when you're in Messenger, click that audio button, the little microphone, and just record yourself. It's a lot easier for me because I receive a lot of messages. It's a lot easier for me to multitask, to listen to you speak your message, and then I'll respond in kind, okay? Be sure to go by Start Therapy Practice and get my free stuff. It's right there at the top of the page. It says free stuff. It's a button. It says free stuff. All right, so I've got like 5 pages here. I'm going to try to run through this because I don't want to take more than 30 minutes, mostly because dinner's done. I'm taking one for the team. They're eating spaghetti and stuff, but that's all right. I'll get up there in just a little bit. All right, so I'm giving this presentation on presentations so I can get better at presentations because the brain gets really good at what it does a lot of. So I figure, hey, if I can get on Facebook Live, do a kind of impromptu presentation on presentations, it'll help me do better presentations. It's a lot of presentations. All right, so why give presentations? First of all, you want to give presentations in order to set yourself as an authority. So it helps people recognize you as a person who knows about the subject that you're presenting on, just by the sheer fact that you're giving a presentation on it. And you could have looked all the stuff up on Wikipedia, but you're now an authority because you're giving a presentation on it. Also, another reason to give presentations is to network. It's a great way to meet people, great way to meet influencers because they recognize you as a possible authority on the subject that you're presenting on. All right, the other reason, really the main reason to give presentations is to help people understand the information you want to distribute to them and to help them with life in general about that, whatever the subject matter is of the presentation. All right, so if you're in private practice, you can give presentations to your potential referral sources. I've done this before. So we do pediatrics at my clinic. So I've given presentations about challenging kids, basically, maybe whether it's a kid who has some sensory integration problems, autism, behavior problems, you can give a presentation to your potential referral sources. So at that daycare, at that preschool, I just gave a free presentation, and the director loved it. It was great. I mean, it wasn't the first time I gave that presentation. It was not good. I mean, but it was better than anything they've seen because they've seen nothing. But I was an authority. I'm an occupational therapist, so I get to come in there and give a presentation on how to make their job easier, at least to understand some of the kids who they have challenges with. So that's a good presentation. I always recommend if you can work up like 2 or 3 presentations about something that you really know about, or something that you see in your community that people would benefit from. You don't necessarily have to be a really expert on that subject. I mean, you have to know about it, but the sheer fact that you're a therapist sets you apart as an authority. And then you can start learning about that subject that, if you're seeing in your practice that people really want to know about, or referral sources really want to know about. Start collecting information and data about that subject and create a presentation around it. All right, so first of all, how to give a presentation. You have to remember that nobody likes to give a presentation, or very few people do. Your audience doesn't want you to fail. They're rooting for you. I mean, you're watching this right now. Hopefully you're rooting for me, like, yes, go Scott. Nobody wants to see a boring presentation. Nobody is against you. All right, so everybody is for you in the presentation. Now, I just bullet pointed this out. These are sort of random, but they're very important points. So people have about a 10-minute time span of attention. I would say it's a little bit less than that. So if you're giving a lecture, think about that. 10 minutes of attention to your presentation. So you want to give maybe some heavier details or data in 10-minute chunks or smaller, then break that up with a story, with some pictures, with some video, with some interaction with the audience. So remember that, to have that interaction. So I'm gonna have some interaction with you right now. Have you given presentations before? Where have you given presentations? What's the subject matter that you present on? Put it down there in the comments. Love to see it. That'll help me. Maybe I'll try to give a presentation on that. Or if you've got it on video, I'd like to see your presentation. That would be awesome. So share that in the comments. All right, if you have a longer presentation that you're giving, break that presentation down in chunks in order to practice that presentation. So don't go through the whole presentation in a linear manner. To practice that is sort of like practicing a musical instrument. So I'm trying to play guitar. A piece of music, I'm not going to practice, well, I can practice it all the way through, but what you'll find yourself doing when you're practicing music is you'll take a phrase of that music and you'll say, I really need to know this phrase because it reoccurs later on down here a couple of times. So you take that phrase and you practice it over and over. It's a small chunk. And then you go to the next chunk and you practice it over and over. And then you can start putting it together. And that is going to help you memorize. Actually, you don't want to memorize. You want to memorize music. You don't want to memorize your presentation. It's not a word-for-word memorization that you're wanting to do. You want to practice it, but not memorize it. All right. Now, the day of your presentation, I would suggest that you eat very little. Don't load up on food right before you give the presentation. I mean, you're just going to burp all over everybody. That's not going to be cool. All right, so don't do that. One way to calm your nerves, if you're giving a big presentation, go for a run. Or do a heavy exercise workout, a few hours or that morning before. I mean, just flat wear yourself out. Now, don't hurt yourself or limp up on stage or anything, or limp up to the presentation, but really tax yourself physically, because that way when you get up to the presentation, you're going to be more calm. Your muscles are going to be more relaxed just because they're all wore out. Another suggestion is to drink some caffeine 15 or 20 minutes before you do the presentation. That can actually calm you down, the caffeine, or it can give you more energy. So drink some caffeine, but also use the restroom before you go and do a presentation. Always go to the bathroom before I come in here. Too much information, I realize, but it's important in this aspect because you don't want to get up there and have to use the restroom. All right, in your presentation, you want to talk about them, the audience, not yourself. So use the word you instead of I more often. So somebody's in here. It says Bob. Hey, Bob, what's up? Glad you showed up. Very cool. If you have any questions, Bob, put them in the comments, or anybody. If you have any questions, or a question I asked earlier is where you're at in private practice. Have you given any presentation? What was the subject matter? How did it go? I'd love to know. So put that in the comments section. So I just said to talk about the audience, make them the focus of the presentation and not yourself. Think about using you, not I. Tell stories. Now, what I like to do, I just said I. What I suggest you do is as you go throughout your day, start thinking about stories. They don't even have to be relevant to a presentation that you're doing, but if you come across a good story, if you have a real unique experience or someone tells you a unique story, catalog that. So I use Evernote to catalog information, and I have a notebook in there of stories. So it's just different stories, and I might tag that or put some information on there about this, what that story is relevant to as far as a subject matter. And then I can go in there and pull from those stories when I do a presentation. Everybody loves stories. All right, so a good format for a presentation, and you can break this up into kind of mini formats in order to have a big format. A good format is to have a point, give an example, and then restate the point. So, I mean, you could have different points within a big presentation, just have a series of points, but that is a good format. Point, example, restate the point. Another good format is to explain a problem, then really hone in on the pain of that problem. So really flesh that out, how painful that problem is to your audience, and then tell them the solution to that problem. So problem, pain, solution. That's a good format. Point, example, restate your point. All right, have a core message of your presentation. Your core message should be no more than 10 words. The shorter, the better. If you can get it down to 3 words, core message, that's what you want them to come away with and remember in your presentation. Have that be your core message. All right. And now most people will only be able to recall no more than 25% of your message, of your presentation. That's why you want to have your core message short and simple. No more than 10 words. Have that in concrete and keep referencing that as you create the presentation. All right, practice out loud and record yourself doing it. Record yourself video. This is painful. When you first do this, you're going to be like, oh, I didn't know I was that horrible. But how are you going to know that you're horrible if you don't video record yourself? So record yourself. I mean, not the whole presentation. Take that one chunk that you're really working on. When you think you got it down, hit record on your phone and record yourself giving it. Then watch it. You know, you're going to know exactly what you're doing wrong 30 seconds into that presentation. You're going to be going, oh my goodness, I didn't know I was saying every other sentence. Don't do that. Record yourself. Also, ask your friends, family for some honest feedback. Say, hey, can you watch about 5 minutes of this presentation? Give me some feedback, and tell them to be brutal. My wife's good at this. So when I give a presentation, when I was first working on presentations, now I'm by no means the expert in presentations, but because we're all getting there, right? But when I first started my presentations, I asked my wife, I said, will you watch me do this presentation? And she said, sure. I said, be brutal honest with me. And she was, and it really helped. But also recording myself with video really helps. All right. Practice out loud. Use technology and props. Okay, so when you're practicing giving the presentation, practice in the actual space that you're going to give the presentation, if at all possible. If not, have the technology, your laptop, your microphone, your clipboard, have anything that you're going to use actually with you when you're practicing your presentation. And this is going to help you know what your technology is capable of, what it's going to mess up on, and just be comfortable with the technology that you're going to use. If you can be in the space, that's even better. All right. Oh, here's a good one. Take backup items to the presentation. So when I remember one time when I was giving a presentation at a preschool, I had 50 feet of extension cord. I said, oh, that'll be enough. 50 feet, plenty of extension cord. Guess what? It wasn't enough. I mean, it was a big room in an older building that was not obviously built to code. I needed more extension cord. So I had to actually do my presentation in a different place in that room than I intended. Worked out all right, but you need more extension cord. What's up, Tony? I see you came in. I know Tony's done a presentation. He's doing a presentation every day. He is Mr. Presenter. Here's a tip. Exhale, with your breath at the end of sentences. End of sentences. So what that does, most of us, when we get nervous, we tend to have a higher pitch at the end of our sentences. So we'll talk like this. And we tend to inhale at the end of the sentences because we're talking too fast, essentially. So exhale at the end of sentences. And then what goes along with that is that the intonation and the pitch of your voice will go down. So think about ending your sentences at a lower pitch. And if you watch enough presentations of people who actually know how to give a presentation, you'll pick up on this. So it actually, people are looking for that. Our brain is wired to hear that low pitch, and we connect authority with that. So use a lower resolution. I'm looking at my camera focus here. A lower pitch at the end of your sentences. And to practice that, read a book out loud. I'm paying attention to my pitch. Read a book out loud and keep your hand on your stomach. And notice if your stomach contracts, that means that your pitch is going to be higher. So practice. There again, the brain gets really good at what it does a lot of. So practice getting that lower resolution at the end of each sentences. Talk even and talk slow. I need a lot of practice with this because I tend to want to talk very fast when I'm presenting. So there again, that's why I'm doing this presentation, to help you with presentations and to help me with presentations. The more presentations that I give, the better I'm going to be with presentations. To keep attention, start telling a story and tell the exciting part of that story and then stop. Finish it later. Here's an example. My wife recently discovered that her great uncle was an original member of the expedition to Antarctica in the early 1900s. Now, he received the Medal of Honor for this. And so now we're in conversations with my wife's mom, my wife's great aunt, because they all knew this man. His last name was Bailey, Commander Bailey. So he was in the Navy, and he went along with Colonel Byrd, B-Y-R-D, to Antarctica, early 1900s. And there was one thing that all the men, this was a dangerous trip. People didn't know if they were going to come back. There was one thing that all the men did, most of the men did, before they went, they did a medical procedure on themselves. Now, out of curiosity, you want to know what that was, but I'm going to tell you in a minute. Don't let me forget. All right, don't assume that your audience knows all the definitions and all the terms, especially as medical professionals. Sometimes we take it for granted that everybody knows the lingo. Don't assume that. Define some terms. Help them out. All right, brainstorm ideas working off of your core message. So your core message, less than 10 words, start brainstorming the ideas working off that core messages. Here's where my whiteboard comes into play. Use sticky notes for brainstorming. One idea per sticky note. Here's an idea. I don't know if you can read it. The light's off of it. Boomerang. Boomerang, one idea. This is a presentation I'm going to do for a rehab summit. You can't read the categories. The categories are intro. Marketing is the long one right here. Mindset. Productivity. Treat kids. Business. That's the categories I came up with. But when I started, the core message was live by discipline, not by default. That's the core message, to be prepared, essentially. And off of that, I started writing one idea on one sticky note before I created the categories. And then I just took the sticky notes and started putting like similar sticky notes together in a group. And then I named the categories. Then I'm going to go and create the slides, the slide share, the PowerPoint. So one idea per sticky note from your core message. All right. All right. Then from that, I have a sticky note creating the PowerPoint. It's one idea per slide. Now, we don't want to read from our slides. That's a no-no. We want to use pictures and images as much as possible. If you can't do that, if you have to put some words on there, keep the words to a minimum and talk over the slide. Images over words. Don't read from your slide. Let me go to the next piece of paper here. You want to keep it fast-paced. You want to have a lot of slides. Use a lot of pictures. Ask questions. Use technology to ask questions. After we get done, I'm going to put some links to some technology that can help you basically survey the audience in real time. Some of those cost money. Probably most of them cost money. But use metaphors. All right. So talk about an abstract idea or abstract data. You could say this abstract data is like this common daily occurrence. So people do really well grasping concepts using metaphors, using analogies. All right. So practice. How much time we got? All right. Got to get to the end here. I don't want to keep this under 30 minutes. Practice your presentation using prompt cards. So use real paper, one heading per card, and then just talk about that. All right. In front of an audience, assume the Superman pose. So arms and chest back slightly, back straight, no hands in the pocket. That's a no-no. No hands in the pocket. So you basically, this is like a power position. Gives you authority. I can't do that because I'm got a clipboard, but I should be more like this. I do try to do that. I kind of try to stand sideways. You know, I got to keep my shoulders back. Good posture makes you more authoritative. I'm gonna do what I said now. All right. So but when you begin your presentation, tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them, and then tell them what you told them. So you kind of want to introduce it and say, here's what I'm going to tell you. Then you actually tell them the subject and then summarize it. Tell them what you just told them. Realize that no one in the room can tell if you're nervous. I mean, unless you throw up on yourself or, you know, pee on yourself, nobody's going to realize that you're nervous. All right. Eliminate ums by being comfortable with empty silence. Painful. But pausing can give good effect to a point that you just made. It's okay to pause. Be comfortable with that. Practice it. When you're practicing your presentation, practice what they call a pregnant pause. It gives good effect to what you just said. I really have to practice on that because I want to go on to the next subject, the next item. It's good practice. All right. You can start your presentation with a shocking statistic. I should have done that here, but This is, I mean, it's Facebook Live. I'm trying to just give you the information. Use a catchphrase. If you can use a catchphrase that rhymes, people will remember that. If you can tie it to your core message, think about your core message, create a catchphrase, and reintroduce that throughout the presentation. All right? Collect audience information. So if you can, collect audience email, because then you can reach out to them later, get some feedback from them. You can do Facebook ads if you have their email. I'm going to do a webinar actually here at 8:30 tonight that I'm going to explain the first steps to creating a Facebook ad. So if you go over to startertherapypractice.com/webinar, you can sign up for that one tonight, or yeah, that's just where I put what webinars I have coming up. So this is evergreen, fresh content. If you're listening to this in the future, go to startertherapypractice.com/webinar. You can see what webinar I've got coming up. I like doing those now. Webinars are fun. But collect email. So tonight I'm going to go over Facebook ads, the first step to Facebook ads. All right, when you're done with your presentation, ask questions. See what the audience has to say. And now I'm done with this presentation, almost. But I'm going to ask you a question here in a minute. 2 books that I recommend. And I'll put links. I'll put a link down here. How to Design TED-Worthy Presentation Slides. That's a good one. Good practical. Steal the Show by Michael Port. That's a good one. I'll put links down there to those. Let me finish my story, huh? The men who went to Antarctica performed a procedure, a medical procedure. Well, they had someone else perform it on them, really. You know what that is? Anybody? They pulled their teeth out. Had all their teeth pulled out before they went to Antarctica because they were going there for basically a whole year. 6 months out of that year, total darkness. Total darkness for 6 months. They lived below ground in some structures that they built. They didn't have electricity, I don't think. They had radio communication, and they had a wood stove, so they weren't freezing. But total darkness, 6 months, pulled all their teeth, because who wants to be down there in Antarctica if you got a toothache? No way. Not me. So that's what they did. All right, I am done. Is there any questions? Where have you given a presentation? What result did you have? All right. I'm going to go eat some dinner real quick. But at 8:30 tonight, that's like in an hour. In 1 hour, I'm going to do a webinar on Facebook ads. So startertherapypractice.com/webinar, and you can go there in the future if you're watching this down the road. All right. Thanks for watching. I'm going to hit finish. Godspeed to you in your practice. Be sure to like the page, subscribe to the podcast. Oh, don't forget about the Academy of Private Practice, opening October 25th through the 30th. All right. Godspeed.